Hey guys, I'm Rafael. This is my friend Scott, and we are here to do this panel in Talk Bubble Digital about American Vampire. We're going to do a quick chat about it, curiosities about the process and everything. That unfortunately we are not personally with them to hear questions and everything, but we are going to do our best and try to, figure out the best questions we can do, right?
Yeah, we'll ask each other good stuff. We miss you guys. I love going to Leeds. I've been there, I think, 3 thought bubbles, and then we had a baby last year, so we couldn't go, and then COVID hit. So we're greatly missing being out there and going to the amazing party where Jamie McKelvey and Kieran Gillen usually DJ, and we miss Lisa and everybody that throws a great time. So thank you, Thought Bubble. Great cause, great con, and we're proud to be a part this year, even if digital.
True. That's true. That's true. So you want to start? Should I start?
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
I'll start. How about that?
You start. Okay.
So when you first got the call from Vertigo about the possibility of doing American Vampire, and they pitched it to you, what were your? And by the way, for everybody watching, this is over 10 years ago now. This is like 2000, probably almost 12. It's like 2008, 2009, I think.
2009, I guess. But
yeah.
Like early, probably March or something.
Yeah, because it started coming out in 2010 March. So I think it was probably 2009 when we started hooking up about it. So What was your first thoughts, first impression, and how did it go? So was it Will or was it Mark Doyle or who? What was the kind of walk me? Because I don't think I've ever talked to you about like what the process was about them approaching you about this project.
That's true. It was a long story. Actually, I think I met Will 1 or 2 years earlier, and I had the chance, maybe 1 year, I don't know, 2009 or something, earlier, 8 in New York. So I had the chance. I was working at DC at the time. I was doing Blue Beetle and starting doing some Superman, Batman stuff. And at the time, I had the chance to do this creator-owned comic with my friends called Mondo Urbano. So Mondo Urbano was an indie comic book, and I had the chance to hand it to Will with a slightly different style I was working at the time that was more polished and more, maybe more polished. And he was like, well, cool, okay. You hear from me. And I was like, sure. I'm just the superhero guy, and I'll never work for Vertigo or anything. But at some point, and at the time, I was literally just announced as regular Superman, Batman artist. And I was like, okay, this is a kind of big book, so it's going to be cool. I did 2 issues, and maybe Will or Mark, I don't remember it now. They asked me if I wanted to, if I wanted to do like
like a tryout.
Like a tryout, maybe. Did I? I don't remember.
No. Did but you were the first person and the only person? Like I saw your stuff.
I did like a sample or something.
You did. Right? I remember seeing it.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, they asked me if I wanted to do, because there were some other people, in the competition for this book. I was like, well, this is a very good book. I really wanted to do. I'm down for it. I had no idea who you are or who was involved in this book at the time. So I was like, sure, I'd like to try it. But I was worried because I was literally just announced it as the main artist of Superman Batman. When I think I got on the phone with Mark or Will, I don't remember too, maybe Mark. And we had a really good conversation. And he was like, well, I'm going to send you, but please don't show anyone. And then I got the sample and I saw it like, well, it's vampires thing. And it was like that Twilight moment. Right. And I was like, Because just want to, surf in this wave. It's gonna be awful. And then I read it and I was like, this is awesome. This is really cool. This is the kind of vampires I like. And on the end, I saw, well, written by Scott Snyder and Stephen King. I was like, it should be not that Stephen King.
Oh, they didn't tell you up front? Oh, yeah.
No, they didn't. So I got back and I was like, well, okay, I read it. I really like it. And is Stephen King involved? And I think it was Mark. And Mark was like, how do you know that? I was like, well, it's in the document you sent me. I'm like, oh, that was a mistake. You shouldn't have knew that. It's like, but on the end, worked it out, and I was very happy. Not just because of Stephen King, but because it was a really good story. I was happy with that. That was the kind of horror I really wanted to tell. And I was really scared that it was some kind of Twilight.
Yeah, I remember your samples because they were like, oh, we're going to try out a bunch of people for the series. And you sent in, and for me, like the weirdest part was like, so I was like working in books, and I'd always wanted to get over to comics. It was all I ever wanted to do, but I was writing fiction, and I was really unhappy doing it. I had this book deal, and the book that I was working on, they wanted it to be like a big hit, and I was worried about adding enough action and romance, and it was just this miserable relationship. And I finally started to break into comics a little bit, and I had the chance to pitch American Vampire. I met with Mark. Mark was like brand new at the time and young.
Yeah.
Now we're all old, but he was young. And he was like, we met at a pizza parlor near DC, and he was like, what's your best pitch? And I was like, my best pitch is for this thing, American Vampire. And he really liked it. And he was like, so write me a pitch document. Here's some examples. And he sent me examples of pitch documents. And I sent in a pitch. I worked on it for a long time. And I remember I sent it in, and I waited a few weeks. And he was like, don't worry, we're going to read it soon. I think it's going to go through. And my first attempt at the pitch was very Skinner focused. It was very much about like what the vampires are, how Skinner is the hero, and Book, and all of the kind of stuff that we're actually dealing with now in the newest arc where Book comes back and everything. And he was so enthusiastic about it, and then basically after about 6 weeks of being there, it got rejected, and I was so heartbroken. I remember like exactly where I was, just walking down the street in New York City, teaching at NYU, teaching comic writing, and hearing him be like, I'm really sorry, they just think that it's too Western based and it's not going to go through. DC feels like we don't need a Western. And I remember just being like, it's not a Western. It like moves through different eras. And he was like, well, the pitch was more focused on that. And I was like, can I rewrite it? And he was like, they don't really reread pitches. They don't do that. And I'm like, well, can you just, I'll spend all weekend, I'll rewrite it, but please, like, it's not a Western. I promise. I just screwed up the pitch. So I went back, I wrote it over the weekend, sent it in. He's like, I can't promise anyone's going to really look at this, Scott, but I'm on your side, and maybe down the line we'll figure out something else to work on. I was like, no, this is all I want to do. And it was a couple weeks later, I remember I was outside my kid's daycare, and I rewrote it from the point of view really focusing on the decades and about Pearl and Skinner. And I remember I was sitting outside my kid's daycare. He's 13 now. And at the time he was like, 2. And Mark called and was like, guess what? It went through. Karen and Will approved it. And I remember just sitting in the car, like tearing up, getting so excited, being like, I'm a real comic book writer. And then the weirdest part about the Stephen King stuff was that Stephen King wasn't involved at all when I sold it to them. And then, this, but like, then they asked me, like, do you know anybody in the horror world that would be willing to write any promos for it once we start publishing it? And I was like, well, I know Stephen King from the book world. And I called him on like an afternoon. They were like, can you call him and ask him for a blurb? And I called him and asked him for a blurb, and he wrote back and he said, I'll read it. And he read it. And he was like, I like it good enough that maybe I'll write an issue for you sometime. And I was like, do you want me to tell them that? And he was like, yeah, just tell them I'll write an issue, on the back of your issues. And I was like, okay, Mr. King, I'll tell them that. So left them a message, and I remember because the office was closed, and they called me at like 8:30 in the morning. I was like Karen, Will, like everybody in the office, and was like, "Did you just say Stephen King would write an issue of American Vampire?" So part of me was like, if I had known this before I sold it, I could have sold it for more money. But what was great about Stephen King was that he came in and he took the lowest page rate DC would accept, and he took no equity in anything. So he basically just was like a work for hire guy off the street. But when we were doing the art, they were like, we're going to look at a bunch of people, and the first person up is this guy, Rafael Albuquerque, does Blue Beetle, and I had looked at your Blue Beetle stuff, and they sent in those samples you did of Pearl and Skinner, and I remember right away, just being like, this is the person, like, we don't need, I don't really think we need to look at anyone else. This is it. He gets who these characters are. I remember the image of Pearl and the flapper hat and the whole thing, and was like, this is him. And, they put us in touch, and it was just like, you got the spirit of it and what it was about and the whole thing. And, you were young and hungry too. And I felt like it was like, we'd make a good match. And then it's been it's still my favorite book to do, dude. It really is. Out of everything I do, for me, the thing I enjoy the most. I love it's. I was so scared when we did this arc, because I was like, this is the big one. Going back to it, like, what if I'm rusty, if like I don't get Skinner's voice. And the second I started writing it, I was like, oh man, this is like old friends. Just, so I love it.
That's true. That's true. No, I remember we clicked immediately. And speaking a bit of Stephen King, and how did you guys got to know each other? And then I have a curiosity about the process I want to talk about, but answer this first.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was weird because I got to know him initially because his son, Owen King, was in writing school with me when I went to graduate school for writing, but I didn't know he was Stephen King's kid. So I made a fool of myself with him when we were walking together at one point. We had already become good friends. It was like a few months into the program. And we were walking on a road. We took a day trip out of the city, and we're out in Pennsylvania, and we were walking on this road. This car went by and fast, and I was like, man, we better get to the side of the road. We don't want to get hit. And he's like, yeah, that's what happened to my dad. And I was like, oh yeah, just like Stephen King, like the other guy, because it was a van that went by. And he was like, yeah, that's my dad. And I remember just being like, what do you mean that's your dad? And he was like, Stephen King's my dad. And I was like, no, he's not. Stop with me, And he's like, Scott, I look like him. I'm from Maine, right? And I was like, oh yeah, you do kind of. And I was like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. It's Owen, it was Owen. So I met him through him, and Owen's still one of my closest friends. But he had already been reading fiction for that year's Best American Short Stories, which is this like anthology here in the States. And he had liked a couple of my stories and mentioned them in this book. And so it was like this weird coincidence of things all at once. And so I wrote to him saying thank you. And then we stayed in touch, and all that stuff. So we're still in touch, and he's amazing and incredibly supportive. And we visited him a couple times, me and my wife, and he's always hilarious. And he's always very self-deprecating. You'll go visit him, and like we visited him in Florida once, and he was staying in this house on this bluff, and I remember him being like, we came in and he was like, oh yeah, I'm making you some microwave spaghetti, just you would do me a favor and move that piece of shit off the table. And I went to go get it, and it was the manuscript for Under the Dome, the book, and I don't want to touch this amazing thing. So he's like that. Or he'll be like, let's go out for a walk on this rickety pier. And he'll take like a lantern, and he's like, sure, it would be a shame if somebody fell off this pier. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, you love being Stephen King in the dark on a rickety pier at night. So he's great. He's like, I can't say enough good things about him. And the fact that he was so kind about doing it. I should ask him about coming back and doing something for the final arc in some way. I don't know why I didn't think to more. I think I was just like, I know how busy he is, and I felt like it's you and me at this point so much, that I don't know. I didn't. Maybe I'll ask him to do something, see if he wants to chime in.
You should at least maybe a graphic novel or something, whatever.
Yeah. So
Uh,
you want me to ask you one? I can.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. I just had this curiosity about me drawing that first volume, and it was really fun at certain point because I was scared to work with Stephen King, and,
Me too.
and yeah, well, and I think Mark too.
Yeah, Mark too.
Because when I got the first issue, it was split like in two halves, one written by you, one written by him, and I was like, and I totally understood your point. It was easy to draw your share, and it was really really hard to draw his share.
Yeah.
And his script was just not good. The first.
Well, it was very. I remember seeing it, and it was like literary, where it was like, it was very dense, where it was like a lot of description, like lots and lots and lots,
and lots of those kind of scenes where one panel have multiple actions.
Right.
So for an artist, that's impossible to do. It's not an animation or anything. So it was very hard, and I remember telling that to Mark, and I think Mark was very scared because he was like, "No, I'm not editing Stephen King."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What can I do?" Right? Because I have to get this done, and I was scared too. But at some point, I just told him, because we are like in a mail list or something, and I had his email, so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna have to say it." And I was like, well, this is not working. This is not working. This could be better this way. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck, who I think I am, teaching Stephen King how to do something. And it was so cool because he was like, in the second issue, he was like, sure, I got it. And his second script, he nailed. It was great. It was great. It was
and I remember he
totally understood how to make comics in 1 month.
And he was so fun too to talk to, where he was so funny. Like, do you remember that he kept messing with me, where he would write a script and at the end he'd put in some where it was like, oh, Pearl turns into a bat and flies away. Yeah. And then I had to be like, oh my God, I have to tell Stephen King again, like, our vampires don't work that way and whatever. And then I talked to him and he'd be like, oh, I was just with you, whatever. And then he'd rewrite the ending and he was just kidding around. But it was the thing that I was saying that I'll stop about him was like, it was very inspiring to see someone who's such a rock star and could phone it in and still do a great job, like write so intensely as though he was like living in the world of the story from page 1 to page 22. And even when the script wasn't working because he was being too descriptive, the fact that he was too descriptive and was putting too much in and he was too invested was really exciting to see, because it's like, this is someone who can only write something if they're really, really like living it. And that was a great lesson, was like, he's not just phoning it in, even though he could phone it in.
Absolutely. It was not like it was his first script was not like a bad story. It was a great story. There was just so much on it. It was like reading a novel. And I mean, it's not like that for me. For me, the artist, I cannot translate that to a comic.
Yeah, exactly.
But he was so good. I mean, he was so, how can I say that? He was very humble, I think.
Very.
In understanding my concerns as an artist at that point. And I was very scared to say that. I mean, it's Stephen King. What should I do?
Yeah. He's so sensitive to the concerns of like up and coming creators in all ways. He was that way in fiction. He was that way in comics, and he wore his American Vampire shirt. Remember when he did that Yorkshire Festival?
I have a picture. I have a picture of that, and I have the shirt which I never wear.
I don't either, but I have it in my closet.
Have it in the. When
I
you're
always feel
famous
like
in
it's like
Italy, they have this museum. This T-shirt's gonna be there.
I always feel like it's like you're wearing the shirt of your own band or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't wear Batman shirts either, any of that stuff. But but yeah, no. But okay, so God, I feel like there's so many arcs and so many things I want to ask you about. And then there's also stuff from the beginning that I remember so well. Like, do you remember the first convention we went to at C2E2? And they sat us with Joe Kubert. Do you remember?
No, that was New York.
Oh, New York. They sat us with Joe Kubert.
I do remember that.
Do you remember that? And it was like the two of us and Joe Kubert, and we had like nothing. We had like a couple issues of American Vampire out.
And Jack, your son, he was there.
Yeah, that's right. Right, but it was like so weird, and I remember sitting with you, just being like, "What is happening?" And then I remember winning the Eisner with you that first year when we were at San Diego, and I remember when they called our name for Best New Series, and you were like, "Yeah!" And
I don't even remember. It's like it. That I remember it was a great night, but I also remember there's a big blank in my mind. I don't remember anything I said that night, except what people told me. I don't remember.
You were great.
Myself saying anything. No, I don't. It was crazy.
It was a good night. It was like Fabio and Gabriel. Also, they won for Day Trippers, and it was a fun night.
Exactly. I have a fun story about that night, though. That night, I remember. I don't know if you were there or if it was just. I think it was just the Brazilians, maybe me and the twins, and maybe someone else. The Gustavo, I think, was there, and we were trying to. At some point, I think we split. But I remember we were trying to get very, very drunk that night because we were happy, right?
Yeah.
We were just won a Eisner. So we were like trying to go to. We went to the hotel bar, and it was closed. There was no beverage anymore, no more alcohol. And then we went to Hof's, the supermarket.
Yeah, I remember.
They were not selling alcohol anymore. So then we realized that the city of San Diego don't sell alcohol after maybe one or midnight or something. And we're like, just want I want to celebrate. I want to buy a champagne and drink. And we couldn't. We celebrated with Coke and a sandwich, and that was it.
I remember Will and them always had stuff on the back steps of the San Diego, of the Hyatt, and we were always there. That was always the fun place. But then I remember that was like our first year, and then I feel like this, for me, the series, because I love the series, again, like it's like my favorite thing to work on. But I felt like it's interesting to me because my feeling when we started it was that we were going to do Pearl and Skinner, do arcs where we created new characters and then come back to them again. And then we did that with the second arc, and I love that arc with the Las Vegas and the dam, the Hoover Dam.
Cash.
Yeah, Cash. And then I realized really quickly, I was like, I miss Skinner and Pearl too much to stay away from them for that long every time. And then we like veered back. And then my favorite, because I remember we did the little 30s thing, but then when we did the war arcs, my grandfather, you know, was in the Pacific Theater in the World War II. We were very close, and adding a lot of stuff from his memories about what it was like being on a ship and feeling like he was getting older and all that stuff, and then you know, being able to then do the 50s, the Blacklist, those eras to me were like, that was like golden. I just loved it so much. And then now getting to do the 70s to me is like that again, because I was like the 60s and I love what we did, and I love it. But 50, it was like 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s are the eras that I was always like, I can't wait to do these, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that would be my next question. Do you have like a favorite arc, or and it doesn't have to be with me, it could be with Sean or
no, my favorites are with you.
Do you have like a favorite story you wrote for American Vampire? Which one is like the one?
It's
your
really
favorite?
hard because I honestly feel like the one we're doing now is like the one, but I love the one. Like this one to me brings everybody together and is about like it crystallizes what the whole series is about, because for me, like the kind of double helix, like the DNA structure of it has always been these two strains of American character. And one is the desire that to be bigger than you could ever be, and to have your name live on forever, and to become immortal, because in America you can make your own legend and build your own, and that's Skinner. You know, Skinner wants to be bigger than death and bigger than, and Pearl, on the other hand, is someone who went to Hollywood not to be famous, but to be a very small part of something that would mean something to someone. And that strain of American character says, we're all part of one big generational story, and we're all small, but together we're big. It doesn't matter if your name is remembered, your actions are what are important. You know,
you left something.
Right. You're part of something you're part of a tradition it pushes history forward a little bit better.
And you think, I'm sorry, but do you think they are still these people?
Yeah, well, I think they veered away, and then this arc, they're very much those people, because Pearl, you'll see in the next issue, actually, she thinks about this, where she's like, I finally realized I was just not, I'm in a bigger role than I was when I was an extra in a movie in the 20s, but I'm the same person in that I just want to be someone who helped. I don't care if anyone knows that I did it or remembers me, but I want to leave the world a better place than I came in.
I see.
Skinner is willing to go to the tongue and the devil, the beast, just to get another chance to be immortal again. And but if you think about who's the main character of the whole series and the arc, it's Skinner is the one that goes from being kind of, you know, really self-centered and evil almost, or self-absorbed.
Yeah, but Skinner kind of had this, like, I have the feeling that when he's on the edge, I think he's selfish, I think he's self-centered, but when he's on the edge, he kind of goes for the right thing too.
I agree, and that's
he does have like this good heart, even though he's
Stephen King wrote him darker than I write him. Like, but I always tried to pull him, like, the big question that Pearl, it gets brought up in this arc, actually, that I've been waiting to do for like many years, is the whole point of, he thinks that he made Pearl to have a partner in crime, to have someone who's kind of as bad as him in a fun way, like a kind of rebellious, bad, let's burn the world together kind of way. And what he starts to realize, or what Book believes about him, and what Pearl believes but won't really articulate, is that maybe he made her to bring the best out in him instead. You know, that instead of him seeing the bad in her and saying, come be with me, he saw that she would see the good in him and pull that out of him. So this arc there is very much about that. Like, that's the core of the whole thing. And also, I think we're at a moment right now in history when those two impulses aren't just American, they're everywhere, where, you know, I feel like the great experiment of America is that all of these different kinds of people come together to be something better than they can be individually, you know, because of the diversity and because of everyone's counts equally. That's the dream. It's always a lie, and it always is it's hypocritical, and there's all kinds of cruelty and systemic racism and all kinds of stuff. But that's the promise, at least, of what we're supposed to be. And then there's also the kind of like, well, it's a place where you can take complete advantage, survival of the fittest style, of anyone weaker than you and work your way up and become huge. And that's Skinner. But in this day and age right now, I feel like those two impulses are what the world is struggling with in different ways, because even if it's not an American thing, it's more like everybody feels like the problems that we're all facing, whether it's climate change or, just all kinds of global economic problems, pandemics, everyone wants to just be like, how do I just get away from it and just care about my little sphere of stuff? Even my kids, like the way they watch TV, the way they consume entertainment, they can choose whatever they want. You can choose whatever news you want. You can choose whatever information you want. It's all me and my experience and what's important to me. Whereas if we're all going to get through this together, there has to be some kind of humility in a sense that we're all going to work together to overcome these huge entrenched problems, right? And so to me, this arc and what the book has always been about has become so resonant to me personally, because our country is being ripped apart by it right now. But you see it all over the world, that sense of like, do we retreat? Do we just pull away from the world and just care about our own country or our own family, our own interests, our own people? Or do we all try and get together and be something better than we can be alone? And that's the lesson of the book. As much as it's a horror series and a monster series, it's always been about like looking at different moments in American history through the fun, twisted lens of monsters, but seeing like what makes us monstrous or heroic at different moments given human nature. You know what I mean? The monsters are just humans. Like what you learn in this second cycle and third cycle is that the blood that makes them who they are has the darkest aspects of the beast and the brightest aspects of the blood of light. And they exist somewhere in the middle, just like us. And you realize it's just about human nature as much as it is about monsters, So
that has always been something you thought about it. I mean, that has always been the heart of your story, or it changed with time?
Well, it changed with time, in that as it's come closer to the end, it's almost like in the middle, I could kind of go out and just have fun and kind of let the characters, explore. But when I look back at those arcs, like The Blacklist or Ghost War, it always comes back to that theme. It's always about and most of my writing does, when I look at it, like the stuff that I want to do with you after American Vampire and all kinds of stuff, is like, and why I like writing Batman the way I do is that it's a belief deep down that our nature is not good, that we are designed biologically to be not great things, like that we're selfish and cruel, and when we're put under pressure, we react poorly, and we fight, we're war, all that kind of stuff, But that what makes us special or divine, if there's anything, is our ability to believe that we can be better than we actually are designed to be. It's like thinking that you might be able to reach higher than your own.
I understand. The ability to overcome this project.
Yeah, and what you're programmed to be. Be better than your own programming. And that.
Can you hear me okay? Because I'm hearing myself.
I can hear you great. I can hear you great. Yeah, and so American Vampire, to me, it's always played with that, with Skinner and Pearl as that kind of pull and push. But in these last couple arcs, it's become really poignant in that regard to me. So it's always been about that, but it's been fun to be able to kind of zoom out, make it more monstery, zoom in, make it more, history based. And then this one to me is almost like one of the ones that's like a perfect marriage of the moment, the fun, the bombast, all of it. So I really like this one. But I reread it. It's funny. I'll tell you this, like, I feel like maybe it's too big of a secret or whatever, but my wife, Jeannie well, but like for people watching, my wife is not a big comic reader. She's a doctor. And I give her comics once in a while. I gave her Day Trippers. I give her I gave her When You Did Huck, and I give her stuff that I really like. That's fun. That's and of my stuff, I don't really give her that much because I want to choose really carefully what I'm like, But last year, she was asking me. She was like, "If I feel bad. I don't really read a lot of your stuff. Like, what is it? If you could pick one thing." What do you want me to read? Like, I'll read everything, but what is it? And I really thought about it, and I was just like, I want you to read American Vampire. She doesn't read Justice League. She hasn't really read Batman, and I love those books. I'm super proud of them. But American Vampire is the one that I feel is the most me, and it's the most about the things that I love. And having you as a partner and having your passion for the same things, it's such a special book to me that. she read it. She's all the way caught up. So she was asking me, can I read issue 4 when it's done and all this stuff when it gets lettered. So yeah, that's it's always been about the stuff that, on the surface, it's this like fun soap opera monster thing too. But beneath the surface, it's focus on history. The thing I'd say too, and it's in this actual issue, in the script that you're doing now, this line gets articulated, but it talks about how, it's the battle over history. It's the idea, does the old monsters, they meet the Council of Monsters, the Council of Firsts. And the council is like, all that matters is history. All it is.
I'm drawing exactly this moment.
Yeah, it's like, all that matters is one big story or a tiny part of this amazing story. But America, because we're so designed to think of ourselves as important and our own experience is important, and there isn't that much history because we're such a young country, and you look around and see things built for you all the time, there's a sense of this moment's important, I'm important, my experience. And to me, it can be empowering, but it's really dangerous. And that's why I feel like at core, this series touches on the thing that I wind up writing about in smaller, different ways in every other series. But it's the most about it at once, in one place. So
yeah. Well, I agree with you. Even though I'm not American, I'm Brazilian. I think at least in some level, I can connect with that, and for me, it's even an opportunity to understand how this mechanism works. How Americans see themselves somehow. And I'm not offending or anything.
Not at all.
It's just interesting for me to be these eyes, right? Because I'm not. Maybe an American artist would do something different. Probably.
No, but that's what's so fun about coming to Brazil.
It's kind of interesting from my point of view to experience this self-reflection, I would say.
Very much, because I feel like, for me, like I coming to Brazil, going to foreign conventions, but going to places that have completely different cultural history, different cultural experience, but especially places with longer histories, than the U.S. You go and you see that we don't have the same kind of physical history here, that you have when you go to a convention, it's in France or in England, or you see these things that are 500, 600 years old, or you go down and you see places in South America or that are, testaments to this long cultural history in different ways. Mm-hmm. But you have like the natural landscape, and you go out and you see these beautiful Red Rock and Grand Canyon, and I feel like that's the closest we get. But it's so much here in our culture just reinforces the sense of self-importance, that it's about individual experience and about making it yourself and about what you want in your life and all of that. And American Vampire is very much trying to kind of, the closer we get to the end of this version of it, the more I see it, like why I love it so much. And one of the reasons really is that it's always been concerned with using history as a way of saying, you're smaller than you think you are, Skinner, and you're smaller than you think you are, everybody in that way. Me too,
I understand. That's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like, should we reveal, also, I feel like we keep talking about it being the end, and it is, we've got, this big arc, 9 issues together, brings everybody in right now, 1976, and then we'll bring it up to the present at the end in the coda. You'll see who gets to live and who survives to the present, or not live, but stays undead to the present. And then, it's the kind of thing I'd say to other people that my hope is that you and I can work on this book in a new format that's our own forever. Like that the way Mignola can come back to Hellboy, that we can come back and do it our own way. But
absolutely. We have talked about it, for a while. much longer than we are planning this final arc. So when we talk about this final arc, it's just for the main series. Doesn't mean that the series is over or that we will never get back to that. We definitely will.
100%.
On our time when we have a story. That's it. And
exactly.
Good with that. When we are good with that. But I just want to point from what we were talking before is that for me, 76.
Nice.
Is also my favorite arc on the whole thing. Even though I have favorite moments in all the arcs, I love Travis and the fourth, Death Race.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite. I love drawing that. The first one is great. I love the Ghost War. I have favorite moments in everywhere. But I think there's one kind of condensate. Is this word? Is this a word in English? Condensate. No.
Or like, you mean like it's like a crescendo where it all comes together?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a bit. I'm not like.
No, dude, you're doing great.
Myself in English sometimes. Anyway. But I think this is the art that gets everything together, everything that's important together in one final thing. So, and also I think from the creator's point of view, I think I'm drawing better than ever, and you're writing better than ever.
Oh,
right?
dude,
we are like in our best moment so far.
We all talk about it. Mark and I talk about it all the time, where we're like, it looks so great. You're killing it. It's your best art.
You too, and Dave too. Everyone. Steve Wans is killing it. So it's like we have been doing this for 10 years. We've learned a few tricks.
I agree. And this, wait till you see what happens. I don't want to spoil it. Like I should spoil it for you, but like there are a couple of things coming up with Travis and all of that I'm like, I can't wait for you to see, because you're gonna be like, fuck that, this is the best. So you'll see. Yeah. There, like it's all like I have it all blocked out to the end now, and I'm just like, I can't wait to get to some of the moments, and you'll see. Like, and I, it's one of those things. Like I have favorite TV series, and I remember some series where like they take people out in ways that you're like, oh man, really? Like, like The Sopranos, or you watch certain series where you're like, you kind of know the people might die, but then they do, and you're like, oh man, I kind of didn't really want them to die there. And so there will be some characters that meet their end in it, but it's a lot of fun being able to write it in a way that we really want to. My favorite series are the ones that give the characters that you love the right ending, where it's like you get to see them kind of meet the future in a way that fits who they are. So I'm excited about that. Like I feel good about where everybody lands. You know what I mean? Like there's no like killing anyone or chopping off anyone's head in a mean way where you're like your favorite character is going to get axed. I love these characters, and I wouldn't do anyone in without a really big heroic moment.
Yeah, I have two more questions for you before we wrap. The first one, do you have like a favorite character, or not really? I mean,
it's hard because
one single favorite.
It's hard because Travis is definitely up there for me, and I love writing him now. I forgot how easy it is. Skinner, of course, like Skinner is like the heart, but I'd almost have to say Pearl, because Pearl, rewriting the whole pitch from Pearl's point of view is what got the series approved.
I understand, yeah.
So Pearl is the one that saved the entire thing. So I'd have to say Pearl, and a lot of Pearl is based on Jeannie for me, and the way she thinks of herself and who she is. Right. So I'd say Pearl, but it's hard because I love so many of them. Sure, I understand. How about you?
I would say Travis for kind of similar reason, because one of the opportunities I had to write a story.
I know.
Was, the Long Road to Hell, which was Travis' story. We co-wrote, but it was the first time I had the chance to, actually write a script.
I love that one. I was just rereading that the other day.
It's fun, right? I like it. I still like it. Good.
I was rereading it because I was trying to remember where it was that Travis, and it was in the main series, but I couldn't remember if it was in that book or the other, where he was dancing to the record that Cal's brother made, because it's Cal's brother was in that band, the Nocturnes, and Travis likes to dance to in his crazy ways with the sword to stuff. And that was, but I was rereading it and I was like, God, this is so good. You really killed it with that. It was great.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Well, you help a lot with that too.
That's and well, let me ask also, like, do you have a favorite arc out of? Oh, you said your favorite arc's this one, right?
My favorite, I would say that 76. However, it's not done yet. I would say that taking this one aside, stuff. I think the first one is really, really strong.
I like the first one too.
The first one is really strong. Both stories.
I was so afraid.
I like yours better. I like yours better. Yeah, no shit.
I was afraid. I remember with the first time you drew Pearl vamping out, and you saved that page. It was like one of the later pages that you sent in for that issue. Do you remember? It was like page 11 of issue, whatever it is, like issue 3 or 4. I remember and being like, I can't wait to see her finally with the claws and the teeth. And you sent it, and I remember seeing it. It was, I remember I was like sitting in my house and just being like, I'm going to open this file and it's going to be good. I hope. And I opened it and I was like, it was the best vampire image I had seen in my life. And I was like, this is who the character is. So great. Cause you made her so scary and awesome. Like,
great. So, I'm glad.
One other thing you said, one other question.
My final question for you is, if you would have movie or a TV show, who would you cast?
I know we get asked this a lot.
It's a very newsarama kind of question.
I remember getting asked this in like 2010, and then those actors now are too old. Where it was like the guy who was on Lost, and then was Skinner, and then there was like Brad Pitt.
It's gonna be Skinner Seat.
Well, I was back then. It was like Brad Pitt, but now he's like almost, what is he, like 50-something years old?
He still would work though.
I think he'd still work. I liked Ryan Gosling also. I think he'd make a really interesting Skinner because he's kind of, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, from Drive and from.
I know him. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think Pearl is hard.
I think he's not angry enough. He's too cool.
That's probably true. I feel like it's hard because Pearl, it's really hard for me to imagine anyone in that role, mostly because I'll tell you the truth. Like, it's hard for me with Skinner, but Skinner you can kind of imagine more because he's got a swagger that some actors have. But both of them, you draw them so specifically that I really always feel like it's like cosplay whenever I see an actor and I try and put them in the thing, because it's when people ask me like, what voice do you picture? Who do you picture doing a voice for Skinner or Pearl if it was that? Right. And it's like the voice is in your head already that you make it up. And the same thing, like your art, I know what Pearl looks like as a human being because I've seen her over the years in your art. And the same as, so it's like, who would I get that kind of would pretend to be them? It's like a hard thing, especially, I don't know. Who would you pick? Pick some people for me.
For Skinner?
Young Winona Ryder, when we started the book, I remember being like, maybe like.
I'll tell you what. Maybe 10 years ago, I'll pick, what's his name? I mean, for a cheap, not cheap, but TV show, let's say, not like a big budget movie. Mark Pellegrino, maybe. This guy?
Which is he?
He's like a TV show actor. He did maybe he did The Lost.
Oh, that's who that's who I said. That guy who played Sawyer.
No. He doesn't play Sawyer. He played one of those. It's like Cain and Abel or something. You remember?
I'm looking at him from Supernatural. Yeah.
Exactly, that guy. This guy could be a really good Skinner.
That's a good choice. Yeah, I think now God, if we had to pick, who's even out there right now? And
Today,
really,
there is a guy who I just saw, and what is that? Fuck. I just saw him in a movie, and I would definitely remember him like 1 hour in a 1 hour. I'm just someone I just saw. Well, there's this one guy. Have you seen that movie that show called Sons of Anarchy?
I was just about to say that. Hunnam,
Yeah.
Charlie Hunnam.
This guy would work just fine.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So
I feel like
Ragnar from Vikings was like pretty much the same biotype.
yeah. Can you pick a Pearl though? That's a hard one, right?
Pearl, I would say Natalie Portman.
I can see that. That's a really good choice, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
I was always like, I always pick people that are dead, like from the past or whatever, where I'm like, back when I'm like, who'd make a really good Skinner? Paul Newman back in the days of whatever.
Yeah, he would be amazing.
Steve McQueen back in.
Steve McQueen, definitely.
Right? Like that. And, Marlene Dietrich.
Audrey Hepburn would be a great Pearl.
Right?
Audrey Hepburn.
She would. Oh, yeah, dude. Marjorie Hepburn, I think I sent you something of her when we were talking about Pearl.
Maybe, yeah. Uh-huh.
This was a blast, dude. We got to do this more often.
Absolutely. Maybe we should wrap up. I have no idea how long is this going. But
yeah, I think we're supposed to keep it to about an hour, so we're there. So I feel like I don't want to.
Is this 1 hour already?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think so. It flies by.
Super quickly.
Next time we should do it with drinks. We'll be like 2 hours in.
I can't wait to travel again and meet you personally. It's gonna be awesome.
The kids asked about you, dude. I missed you.
I miss you guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much too. All right, Rafa, I'll talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you everyone who watched. People from Top Bubble. Thank you very much, Chloe. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you very much, Scott. It was a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
and
brother.
well, stay safe. Use masks. Wash your hands, and that's it. Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Bye.